Welcome back to the Chess4Life Spotlight. I'm your host, Elliott Neff, National Master and founder of Chess4Life. And with me today, we have Bruce Kovalsky, who I've known for many years. In fact, it goes all the way back to before we started Chess4Life. And I met Bruce in the early days when I was coaching by myself. And what fascinated me about Bruce is he has a long history of working in the computer space, programming, senior manager at Boeing, senior software engineering specialist, working at IBM, different projects. He's done so much in the STEM space. And at the same time, he's donated countless hours towards supporting chess in the communities. So I'm excited for our conversation today. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to join.
Thanks. So as we jump in here, let's first dive back and let our audience get to know you just a little bit further. Do you mind sharing where you're from? And at this point, what are you focused on at this stage in your life and your career?
Okay, well, chess-wise, I started out many years ago, and I became a national master myself in 1984, and I achieved quite a few successes early in my career. In the intro and how I got to meet you is back in 1997. So I started a career, and I was busy with my children, and in 1997, I had a parent of a child that was similar to my daughter's age, and she knew that I was a chess player and was a high level, and she wanted to have her children to also learn chess, and she suggested to me that I open a new chess program at Sunny Hills Elementary, where our kids are both attending.
Nice. Yeah.
I was working full time, and I said, well, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if there's interest. So at the end of the school year 1997, in March of 1997, I decided to start a chess club at Sunny Hills Elementary. And I thought, okay, let's give it a try. I did it before school, so I wouldn't affect my work schedule that much. So every Friday morning, I'd open up a chess club. And within weeks, I got up to like 20, 25 kids, and it became very popular. Word of mouth spread throughout the Issaquah Plateau area, and it just continued to blossom after that. I ended up with probably 75 to 90 kids as myself, the single chess coach, over a period of years.
Wow.
That led to the time when we met in 2005, when you were starting to start teaching at some of the Issaquah Plateau, Sammamish Plateau schools. And you might want to talk about that tournament and that match that we arranged together in 2005 when we first met.
Totally, Bruce. Thank you for that quick intro. So from Issaquah, Washington, you're working in the tech space, right? And then you're invited to, and you agree to launch this chess club. So before we talk about that further, let's talk about your journey to becoming a national master, right? This is a rare title if you think about the big scheme and the big picture, right? It's a title of what? Fewer than a few thousand in the whole United States are national master titled players. And in the state of Washington, where you're from, I think that number is barely in the hundreds, if that. And so can you share what it took for you personally to become a national master in the game of chess, what your motivation was to do it, and just a little bit of that journey first?
Okay, I think I learned chess from my grandfather when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I have two brothers. I'm the middle brother. And I think what led to me really improving, I started playing tournaments in middle school, and I had a brother a year older. And when he got to high school, he joined the chess club. And I think that sibling rivalry is what really spurred me to, I wanted to beat my brother, right? So all through high school.
That's awesome. Brother, sibling rivalry leads to master title.
Well, it kind of, I think it motivated me. I wanted to beat my brother, which I soon passed him. But I think after that, once I started achieving certain levels in high school, and I became chess club in high school, I continued to play all through college. And I ended up becoming a national master about a year after college. And probably my crowning chess career achievement is in 1984. I was on the U.S. amateur team, player board 2 of 4 of where you play. The average team rating has to be under master, right? And back then it was only now they have 4 regions that are all done online, but back in 1984 they had no internet, right? So we won the regional tournament in Los Angeles. And
Nice.
then we ended up playing a telephone match against the New York team, and we won that. So my team's
Wow.
picture was on Chess4Life in May of 1984. That was probably my crowning chess achievement in my career.
Wow, that's awesome. And so let's tie that a moment into your career, which has been primarily in the technology space. Could you share with us a little bit, what parallels do you see from the game of chess that would support the career you've had?
Very good question. I think one of the things that I've done in my interviewing, and also I've recommended to others. So what my career was, I got a degree in computer science, and I went on to do programming for a number of years. And I've had various technology roles, like you mentioned, most recently as a project manager at IBM. But I think one of the parallels I like to draw between chess and in my career. So in chess, you're usually using a series of moves to accomplish a goal or checkmate, win the game,
Right.
and win material achieved. And in programming, computers, even back in the early days, use a series of programming statements to accomplish a goal, and then it produces a program which you then use. I think that same type of analytical thinking of planning and executing, and you have many paths to get to a winning position in chess, as you do in programming. You have many ways to write code to accomplish that. I think that skill is something that I was really good at when I was young, and I ended up being good at it in both sides, both on the programming side and the chess side. So I think it takes an abstract type of thinking, not just a mathematical background is important to know how to evaluate positions and evaluate how well the program will work in that parallel. But also, I think the planning aspect of it, right? In chess, you want to win in the end game, and you're writing a program, you want to complete the program. So I think that type of analytical thinking is it parallels each other, and I enjoyed it and I was good at it.
Nice, nice. So basically the direct parallel in what makes you successful in chess was the kind of thinking that greatly supports your success in your careers that you've had.
I agree. I think my chess background complemented my software background and vice versa, right?
Right. Nice. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the softer skills that chess can support. You know, at Chess4Life, we talk about mindsets of success, attitudes of success, things like you can win, you can draw, or most people think you can lose. We like to say you can learn. So in other words, when you lose a chess game, you're learning. And if your mindset is embracing that loss, embracing fail, which I like to say stands for first attempt in learning, right? That mindset is crucial in chess to be able to make progress. If you're afraid to get checkmated, afraid to lose a game, you're not going to put the effort in, and you're not going to get better because it requires that practice and learning from your mistakes. So that's just one of the mindsets. You know, you could say it's a growth mindset, right? The embracing failure as part of the learning process, a can-do attitude, one that strives forward going, I can do this. And even if I don't succeed at the first time, it's going to help me get better. What would you say you've experienced from chess, and again, translated to life and career, that you see chess helped with?
Very good question. I think my career, I started out in technology. In the last several years, I've been more of a product manager role. I actually have my PMP certification from the PMI. I think project planning in business is important to have soft skills that you mentioned. And a couple I'll draw from. So whenever I decide to start a project, the first thing you do is you put together a project plan, right? So what do? You have a mission and goal setting, right? You need to determine how you're going to get to the end game, how you're going to get from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 to the final delivery and production. So that kind of thing is also applicable to chess, where you're looking at your opening is your first several moves, how you get your structure, and then your middle game is where a lot of the strategy and planning and execution will happen, where you actually are moving your pieces. And the same thing in software and project planning, you're actually executing the different phases that you planned and set goals for to begin with, and then the actual execution through the planning. And I think in chess, obviously you want to plan your opening, how you want to set up your initial pieces, and then you want to figure out your strategy. But you also, in the middle game, you have to thinking about the end game. Same thing in business, right? If I'm in the middle of executing phase 2 of 3 of a big project, I need to think about what things are being done in phase 2 that will affect phase 3. So for example, in chess, you might not want to have a bad pawn structure because that might hurt your end game, right? So you might make decisions in your middle game on how you move your pieces. Same thing in business, right? You want to decide, well, if I have an option to do A, B, or C, and it might be a chess move, or might be how you want to implement a software project. You might want to choose a language, you might want to choose a server, you might want to choose the certain people with skills. The same type of skills, which if you've done it many times before, like in chess, if you've learned and you saw how an outcome didn't occur like the way you wanted it to in chess, you then learn yourself, and maybe you choose a different path in chess. Same thing in business, right? If you did something that historically had a poor chance of succeeding, just like making a risky move in chess, where you assume the player may not fall for what you're trying. In business, it's a lot more impact, right? You might lose a piece in chess, you might lose thousands or millions of dollars in business. So you have to make good decisions in business that will also lead to a good end result, winning a game, having a successful project, winning an end game, winning.
That's awesome.
So I think that's also the planning is very important to my chess, my business background.
That is really cool to draw that parallel, Bruce. I love how you put it there as a project manager, thinking in those chess terms directly applied, there's these phases, right? From the opening, the middle game, the end game, but you always start with the end in mind, meaning what is my clear objective? And then how do I backtrack that and to say, how do I start the project to set up the right position to then apply these strategies and then wrap it up in the end game in order to complete the goal? You're right, direct parallels. While we're on that, I want to dive a little deeper here into an aspect of what at Chess4Life we call better together. And what we mean by that is, how in a chess game, there's these 6 different types of pieces and they have different capabilities. Each of them moves its own way. And while the queen is considered the most powerful piece, the knight is the only one that gets to jump over other pieces. And so each piece has its unique abilities and they're all important in a chess game. How do you see that mindset applied to your project managing in terms of the resources that you put on a team?
Absolutely. That's exactly true. Like the bishop is can stay in only one color, but it stays in the same color the entire game, where a knight doesn't move as far. And that, I've hired a lot of people in my career, right? Which means you need to be able to choose people with good skills. Now in chess, the value of the pieces, how they move, and how they move together, right? So not only, what their skills are, what their maybe personalities are, and how they will work together with other players, right? In your project team and your business. So you have to understand how to assemble the right team. And in chess, you need to know how your pieces will work together. In product management, you need to know how your team will work together. Even if someone is a great, technical person, they may not work well. You may choose someone else that has better soft skills. And I think that's a good parallel to draw.
That's awesome. That's almost like saying, imagine a chess game where the queen refuses to play with the other pieces. Right? I'm too strong. I don't need you. Right? It doesn't work because you need that team working together to accomplish your goal. So that's really cool. So this has been fun already, talking about these parallels with chess and career and such. Let's dive a little bit more into that personal side of what you've done in the chess world. Like you alluded to, right? We met with the Sunny Hills Chess Club. We had this tournament that came together, which was a really awesome connection of multiple schools coming together for a fun event in 2005, I think it was, or might have been earlier, right about then. anyway. And that was so great to see the communities coming together, the tournaments coming together. So what was it? You mentioned how you got invited to start a club and you did that. But what was it that drove your desire to invest these hours into youth who wanted to learn the game of chess? What was it that you saw as a positive outcome from that?
Yeah, I think, as I started the chess club and I saw these parents and kids that came to me and wanted to learn, and there's all levels. Some people were stuck at beginners, some people wanted to get better, and I ended up starting an advanced chess class for that after I turned over the Sunny Hills chess program to you in 2005, to focus on the more intermediate advanced students that wanted to learn more, and I could change my lesson plans to be more advanced versus the beginners. But I think the excitement that I saw from both the kids and the parents, I think what you've seen, there's kind of been a chess boom, especially since COVID started, and then Queen's Gambit came out, and Netflix led people to understand. And I can actually, I taught chess for 20 years, right? So I saw some of my young kids, when very young, who ended up becoming successful in college and in their career. They're actually now working careers, and I've stayed in touch with several of these kids who I taught when they were in elementary school. And I've seen how chess kind of created their makeup. A lot of them are in technology careers, as you mentioned. They're programming at Microsoft, at Boeing, at Amazon. Kids that I taught that were pretty young and were learning really how to use chess in their own mind, right? How to understand it. Well, it turns out it's very common to see a lot of people in technology that had a mathematical or a chess background. Yeah. And it's very easy to see someone who is a good chess player when they're young have a very good technology career later. I think it's a very direct draw. And parents saw that as a way for their children to do better thinking processes and plans. Even though chess is a finite game, it teaches a lot of soft skills to be able to use in technology in the business world later. And I enjoyed seeing kids excited about learning, and parents were almost as equally as excited about their children becoming better at chess so that they could become better in their careers later.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And what you're talking about, it's really hard to say causation exists between chess and these STEM careers and skills, but yet there's some very strong correlation there. Right. And you can just imagine how building these analytical skills, these problem solving skills, these mindsets of success can translate over to succeeding as they consider and move into careers like that. They may feel more comfortable just with this kind of thinking because that's what they've been playing in their games. In fact, I'm not sure you're aware of this, Bruce, but and maybe I'll just ask you here live, did you know that a couple of years ago, we ran some data on the Pan American Collegiate Chess Championships to draw this parallel and to just explore those who compete in the college level in the Pan American College Chess Championships? What is their majors when they're in their junior and senior years primarily? And unsurprisingly, after drawing 2 years of data and getting 90+% participation in these studies, because we went in person to do it, because otherwise you don't get a high percentage, right? If you just do it digitally, you're not going to. But we did it in person. And unsurprisingly, yes, we had those high 80s, 90% who are in STEM careers, and many of them in software technology and such.
I'll give you another data point. I played in 4 Pan Ams during my college years. And my last year at Berkeley, we won the US Pan Am Championship. And all of us, I've stayed in touch with several of those players, and we're all in technology careers. So it was 100%.
Wow, look at that, right? Exactly. Your team right there, and you're all in technology careers. Like you mentioned, you've coached students over 20 years, and you've followed some of them up into careers. Is there a student or a story from one of these kids that you would like to share briefly that really stands out to mind as a kid who kind of came from a background and through chess grew up and is like a success story of applying chess skills in their life? Anyone in particular stand out to you?
Yeah, there's a student I started teaching very young His name is Kevin Chen. I taught him all the way through middle school and high school. He went on to Georgia Tech, got his degree in computer science, and he's now working at Google. And I've been in touch with him. Actually, in addition to the group classes that I've taught, both in schools and then privately, I did some private lessons with some students, the ones that I, on a case-by-case basis. I didn't do it full time. I just did it for the ones that, it was one that I taught parallelly all through high school and in college. And he ended up having quite a career. And that's another one where I also got a relationship with the parents early on, and they loved me coming to their home and teaching their student whenever I had time. And he's been very successful. He's very, and he's a very good chess player, but he's also very good, doing very well in his career. I think he's just starting out the last few years, graduated about 3 years ago. So
that's really cool.
Like I said, that gives me a lot of joy in seeing him start out learning chess when he's young, improving, and then succeeding in his career, partly because chess helped mold his analytical and problem solving skills.
That's awesome. Really cool. Thank you for sharing that, from young student to now an employee succeeding in his career at Google. That's really, really cool. So you mentioned something about the Queen's Gambit, which of course came out, and there was a resurgence or awareness of chess globally through this Netflix series. And that's been awesome to see. But you mentioned some fun elements on a personal note that you did during this time. Do you mind sharing this story?
Yeah. So a couple months after Queen's Gambit came out, and I got a lot of unsolicited messages on chess.com. You want me to teach? And I happen to, as a chess player, one of the things I do on the side is I collect chess sets, right? So I have my room in my office, I have a whole baker's rack of chess sets, and it includes, which I've collected from all over the world. And I have a chess table, which I use for my own study, right? Well, it turns out I had bought a chess table maybe 25 years earlier, and it had run its course, had gotten a little bit scratched up, and ended up replacing it with a newer model several years ago. And after I watched Queen's Gambit, and I started getting all these inquiries about teaching chess again, I thought to myself, let's do something fun. I took this old chess table, which still was functional, it just needed some tender loving care, maybe to be updated to become a full set. And I put it on a Facebook sales group. And I said, free chess table. You need to tell me why you want this chess table, and I will give it to the person who gives me, who's most deserving. So within hours, I had dozens of people messaging me and posting on there that I want it. My children's learning chess. I want to learn chess. I've learned about chess and Queen's Gambit. And I had people offer to pay me for it, and I turned that down. What I ended up doing is giving it to a gentleman who, out of Woodinville, and he came and picked it up. And his story was he had a 3-year-old son that was just learning how to play chess. And this gentleman, as a elementary student, played tournaments way back in the day when he was younger. He's now a father. He's got a child, wants to learn chess. He saw a chess show, Queen's Gambit. His son watched it, interested in it. And it turns out he has a woodworking background too. So he's an ex-chess tournament player when he was younger, hasn't played in many years, as a son. I ended up giving him this table, and he ended up restoring it by sanding it, finishing it with varnish. And to me, that was paying it forward, right? That was awesome. Trying to get someone who wants to use chess to help their child. And it was something that I wasn't going to get much value out of, a used chess table, but I ended up letting him have it. And he sent me a picture about a month later when it was restored. And that just gave me a lot of joy.
That's awesome, Bruce. What a cool way of even taking it tangibly forward, right? Chess is cerebral in many ways. It's done online so much these days, especially after the shutdowns with COVID. And now here you're helping a 3-year-old kid's going to get the enjoyment of playing on this chess table that has actually quite a bit of history now. That's so cool.
It does.
That's awesome. So let's switch gears a moment here, just so people can get to understand you personally a little bit better. Do you have hobbies or sports outside of chess that you like?
Obviously, chess is my main hobby, has been for many, many years. One of the things that I do like to I'm very active physically too, which not all chess players are, but I started playing senior softball tournaments a few years ago, and so I travel usually both in local leagues, and I travel to tournaments all over usually the West Coast and play in softball tournaments, which is a lot of fun. So that's something I enjoy. I've also, now that I'm getting closer to retirement, I might take up more golf, and I also play racquetball. So I think being physically and keeping physically fit helps your mind also when you play chess, right? Because you need, as you know, some of these longer tournaments in the old days when we used to play, you could play a 5, 6, 7 hour game potentially, right, with longer time controls. So I think getting physically fit is also, so I've always been physically active, and I think chess is the mental aspect, but yeah, as you know, even Magnus Carlsen plays tennis and he keeps fit.
Yeah.
So it's important to have stamina, physical stamina, in order to keep your mental stamina up. And I always believe that keeping active in sports was a good way to do that.
Totally. Absolutely agreed. You know, physically fit is required to be mentally strong. And so that's really cool. And what is a bucket list item on your list that you hope to accomplish sometime in the next year, 10 years, lifetime, whatever it is? Is there something fun you'd like to share that way?
That's a good question. I mean, my consulting career is winding down. I think one of the things we talked about earlier is I taught chess, you know, from all the way from the late 90s all the way to, and I turned over the chess program to you in 2005. I taught the program that I had, a small private class, until 2015. I think one thing I'm investigating is getting back into teaching chess. And it's something that I think it gave me a lot of joy when I was younger. And I think it's something that I might do more in the future. And I also enjoy, now that my consulting career is over and I have more time, I love to travel. And I just got back from a trip to Europe, and I plan on doing more trips with my family going forward, because I only have one shot at this, and I'm trying to enjoy it while I can. So going back to teaching chess, it might happen too.
That's awesome. So maybe teach some chess, do some more travel. In fact, you might enjoy another interview that we're planning to post at some point here, where there's a gentleman who's taught for 40 plus years, and he used to use the game of chess in his classroom throughout that time. And to date, he has played chess in over 100 countries, making friends around the world,
Wow.
taking chess with him wherever he goes. And it's another amazing story that we'll be talking about soon. So thank you for sharing that, Bruce, with your travel and your future interests. I've just got a couple more questions, and then are you going to be up to a chess challenge with me? Would you like to play a speed chess game?
Sure, I'm a little rusty, but sure, I'll take you on.
Okay, awesome. So what we'll do, a couple more questions, and then we'll switch to the game. Now, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's, let's say, just entering their career, instead of one who's succeeded and gone through multiple careers and places? What kind of advice would you give even your younger self if you had it to do over again?
I think just that's a good question. I really haven't thought about that too much, but I would say, you know, go with your gut and understand your strengths, and when you try to decide what you want to do with your career, understand that a lot of people, like for me, I knew when I played chess very young, I was going to probably end up in a technology career. It was something that I was enjoyed and I was good at, right? So I think, and I had no problem actually when I interviewed with people, tried to draw those parallels that we talked about earlier, you know, how I could become a good programmer because I was a good chess player and how that would help me. I wouldn't be afraid. A lot of people are afraid to mention personal things in interviews. They want to talk about the work part of it. But even though chess is a personal thing, I think I had no problem trying to draw those parallels. And it often resonated with hiring managers to understand that, hey, this guy knows how to be successful in chess, so I think he can be successful here in this career. So I think not being afraid to even mention that on your resume or even in in-person interviews. It turned out to work out for me pretty well now that I'm winding down my career. But I often, it was chess for me was always a highlight of my life. So I wanted to highlight that when I talk to people about business and how it helped me in business.
Well, that is really awesome, Bruce. And in essence, what I'm hearing you say is almost like saying the parallel again. Chess pieces move certain ways. As people, we have unique abilities and strengths. And I even talk about that in the book I published, A Pawn's Journey, Transforming Lives One Move at a Time, about discovering your unique abilities, those areas where you are just amazingly, naturally, it comes to you. And so what I'm hearing you say is, seek to understand those, discover those, and press into them. Because if you play with those strengths, you have an amazing future. Is that what basically I'm hearing you say?
And I have read your book, and it was a great book, and kind of a story about the girl who did well all through learning chess and succeeding. So I think it's it may be fictional, but it also has a lot of parallels to a lot of people's journey in life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate that. So everyone, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these amazing stories as we talk with people from around the world of how chess is impacting communities. And now we're going to go to a live chess game. And yes, I could be rusty, Bruce can be rusty, but as we know, you can win, draw, and learn, and it's fun to connect over a chessboard. So we're going to play a fun chess match here, where I'm going to share my screen in just a moment here. Let me find my share button. Here we go. Here it is. I'm sharing my screen. Go ahead and accept the challenge if you see it, Bruce. There we go. So we're in a chess game here. Bruce is playing the light pieces. I'm playing the dark pieces. And we're just going to have a fun match here. And for those of you who don't play a lot of chess or know how chess goes, we are playing a match that is only 3 minutes per side. Plus every turn we gain 2 seconds on our timer. So what that means is it's a pretty fast game, and we have to move quickly, because if you go to 0, you automatically lose the match. So quick decisions here, and yet not too quick, otherwise it's easy to make a mistake. So there's certainly pressure when you play a speed chess game. And as Bruce alluded to earlier, a number of chess matches.
Defense.
Sorry, what was that, Bruce?
I said you're playing a Dutch. I haven't faced a Dutch in a while.
Yes, and if for those of you listening who may not know, the opening moves in a game, chess openings often have names because of how common they're played, and they come from where they occurred. Like I'm playing what's called the Dutch defense, and you can guess it came from probably being first played somewhere in the Netherlands. I don't know the exact story of when it was first played, but it's a fascinating, the history of these different openings. And earlier in our chat, Bruce talked about how some matches can last hours. And that's another benefit of the game of chess, is the ability to focus, to concentrate over lengths of time, right? It can build your ability to really concentrate. I've seen that frequently among students. And here it looks like I need to start concentrating. Otherwise, I might run into some trouble.
At a Garmin at NC3 if I want to get in B4. I'm making you think, Elliott.
You are making me think.
You don't want me to play B4, huh? B5.
Yeah, I did not like the look of that pawn coming down and your rook getting a better line, better file. And for those of you watching, the move I played is risky also, because now this pawn doesn't have a lot of defense from this queen, but I'm giving up something in order to hopefully gain something. I'm blocking it down. Maybe this pawn can become a target on b4. So we'll see how this turns out. And if you're watching, notice how I'm targeting this c4 square. It's got a couple of pawns. My knight can anchor in there, and that can be considered an outpost, which hopefully could increase the control of squares of my pieces. You see, as masters in the game of chess, many times what we're trying to do is just improve each piece, make incremental progress towards the ultimate goal, of course, of checkmate. We just know that to say my goal right now is checkmate is usually hard to accomplish. Life and chess games morph and move. And so it's this adding up of little advantages that is necessary to really build a strong position and a strong plan. So as you can see, my knight is advanced to the other half of the board, which means it's controlling more squares on the opponent's side. Now we have what's called some interesting tactics going on. That means now we got to calculate carefully. There's lots of things that can occur. Pieces can be lost very easily and quickly.
I'm giving up exchange for some pawns here.
Mm-hmm.
I think your d5 is not doing well.
Oh, and I don't see a way to hold on to it, so I've just leaving it alone. So we have what's considered a very imbalanced position now, where there's lots of pieces that can attack each other, lots of things going on here.
Yeah, it's a complex position. I agree. Yeah, I didn't think you wanted to go to b7.
Yeah.
Then I could get the check.
That looked a little bit too dangerous. I think it was playable, but left too many of my pieces without good protection.
Oh, that's fatal. I sort of see my white squares. All right, you got me. Very nice game. I thought I had a chance until then.
Well, thanks, Bruce. It was a very, very close match. You did have a very good, I would say, position, but at the end here, yes, those light squares coming into your king, right? The queen and bishop, and here, somebody doesn't know too much chess, the queen is threatening the rook and threatening to go to g2, checkmating the king. So we got a major fork here, which is going to win at least a rook and therefore a winning position. So
Yeah, very nice. That was an interesting tactical game. We both had our tactics chances. Thank you for the game.
absolutely. Thank you, Bruce, for playing that match. It was really fun meeting you again, catching up with you, hearing about your successes in career in chess and potential futures. So thank you a ton for joining me on the Chess4Life Spotlight today. And everybody listening, once again, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more amazing stories of chess, careers, and parallels to life.
Thanks, Elliott.